Convene there.
Okay, all in favor? Thank you.
Right.
Okay, so let's go back to our discussion regarding the total cost. So there is discussion regarding the size. Councillor Court, you were saying you prefer 19,000.
We were going to talk about the surveys.
I thought we were doing the survey first, yeah.
Okay, all right, let's talk about the survey then.
Okay.
Go ahead. Who wants to talk?
Oh, yeah.
Go ahead.
I'd get rid of question 1 and 5, just do 2, 3, and 4.
I'm sorry?
I think number 5 just muddies the water. And number 1 is like, if you had $100, that's just a speculation. I'd just go with 2, 3, and 4 for me.
Question 1 sounds like we're trying to get an Amway salesperson to come work for us.
2, 3, and 4 go right to the heart of it, and I think that's all we need.
I'm just not hearing. Jeff?
I'll just mention that these came, Councillor Brown had referenced a survey from a family friend near Cochrane, and we found this was the MD of Rocky View, is that right? Which is the neighboring MD. So we pulled those from that survey, that's where they came from.
Okay, and when they did those surveys, because they were entertaining a rec center?
Yes.
It was a survey to deal with broad recreation. It was just for broad recreation. They were covering a lot of aspects in the survey.
Okay, so it was just a recreation facility.
The mayor.
Go ahead.
Makes sense
So
in that kind of a
I
thing.
don't know. I'm going to take this down.
I know
here.
it's so frustrating today.
So, Mayor, what I will tell you, so Councillor Court, just in case you didn't hear, he said he didn't like the first question and the last question, but he liked 2, 3, and 4. I actually feel exactly the same way. I would just like to add somewhere on here the list of things we're looking at putting into a building, just because I think it's important for people. When we met with Westwind School Division, we gave them a list of proposed sports
Uses,
that
yeah.
could be played within the building. I think it would be fair to put that in here. They've listed a couple of them, but I would just like to see it as part of it. This is what we're looking at putting in a rec facility, because just saying we're going to have a rec facility with basketball courts, well, I'm going to say no, we don't need one more dang basketball court. Does that make sense? So to me, I just felt like we should have a list of what could go on in it. So
Okay.
for me, I would say 2, 3, and 4 as well.
And so, so
Councillor
would you
Drew?
put, just in the preamble, this
Yes.
is kind of what we want, and then
Exactly.
here are the 3
Yep.
questions? Yeah,
That was-
I'm good with that.
That was my thought.
Okay.
Councillor
I like that.
Selk, Councillor Bengry?
I agree with what's been proposed. 2, 3, 4. I think that you could stroke out a couple of those bottom lines because you don't need to create the fear factor amongst everybody.
Yeah, we're not going 300.
I don't know that you don't want to have a
Why not?
full figure. Let the people decide on that one, maybe. I don't think that creates fear. It's,
Yeah, no, it does. Because if you're suggesting it, then they think we're thinking it.
Councillor Bengry?
My question is question 4 also, in the fact that it doesn't zero in on a recreation facility, a recreation complex. It zeroes in on all of the recreation facilities we have in town. And we know that we're putting, $2 million every 3 years or $1 million a year in recreation facilities now.
Oh, I see what you're saying.
And it's not zeroed in on the recreation facility itself. It's all of the different facilities we have, and it doesn't say every year. It just says annual, and so some people are going to read that and say, hey, I can handle $50 this year increase on my property taxes, or
Okay.
30 for, but it doesn't say that it's an ongoing increase.
Well, the thing is, it does not also reveal the fact that 25% of people taxes are already paying for recreation in this town, right? So I see what you're trying to say. We should zero in onto the impact of the new rec facility regarding taxes from year to year. Yeah, makes sense. Councillor Selk?
I think the one thing that we never, ever, ever talk about with respect to this is the possibility for economic development. And the fact that we could actually draw people to town, which would then keep your taxes low because we have more people paying taxes. And we could actually draw business to town because we have a rec center. So we never, ever talk about that. I think a question there that simply said, do you believe that a rec center could also contribute to economic development in our community? Yes or no?
Well,
A good question.
I understand that question, except there has been a study made that don't specially point to that, and I'm referring to a study that I read on Cardston, and it doesn't seem to be that there's a direct link between the two. I'm sure there is an impact, but in a big town like Lethbridge, when there's huge amount of people that come for festival, football, or all that, it has a definite impact on all the hospitality. There's no doubt there is. But in a small town, it's not always as obvious. Councillor Brown?
I would have to disagree, because when I went to the rec conference, they talked about that over and over again, and they even talked about small communities, how their rec facilities, and I'm not saying just a rec center, but they said their rec facilities are the reasons now that people are moving out of the big cities and into the smaller communities, because we can now, everyone's working from home, well, except me, but the majority of people are working from home. And so as long as there's Wi-Fi, so the first thing they're looking for is Wi-Fi, the second is rec facilities. And so to me, that means, and they were explicitly saying it was not just big cities, it was smaller, because they then had a small town that is, I can't remember it off the top of my head, I'd have to pre-watch it, but it had a small town, a village that turned their curling rink, because it was not being used, into a rec facility, and how that really brought the community and it brought people into their area. So
No, I'm sure there is a link. How can we quantify it? That's a difficulty, right?
Well,
I remember the story even when we have an event like the Power that really brings quite a few people in town. And when we were trying to do some fundraising with the merchants, very few of them wanted to help, except certain that were like the food industry. Those helped us a lot. And theirs was, the people are there, but they don't walk the street. That's maybe what I'm trying to say. So they stay concentrated where they are, rather than come and walk the whole street and add to the business in a town. That's maybe what I'm trying to say. Councillor Selk?
So, might be a good time, Jeff, to reference the letters that you got today.
Yeah, I was going to put them on the next agenda, but I certainly can. Councillor Selk brought me a number of letters from merchants who they were taking these letters. They're a form letter.
And do it, by the way.
No, I know who did it because I got calls from a couple of merchants about it yesterday. So merchants just suggesting that, again, without cost context, that they like the idea of a rec facility for economic development purposes. I'll have it in your next agenda. I just got it this afternoon from Councillor Selk. So what was there, 20? 28
businesses that are supporting it.
So, and again, there was no discussion of costs or anything for them. But that's the calls I got from merchants saying, I'm asked to sign this letter and I have no context into what this is going to cost me. Right? So we have to get some of that information out there too.
And those merchants never signed a letter and gave it to you, so The ones that you got are the ones that do support it.
I'm not sure, they weren't opposed to the idea, they just said, I don't know how to truthfully answer the question. That's all their comment was to me.
Well, it's difficult to have an opinion when you don't have all the facts on the front of you, right?
That's why we're having this conversation.
No, it's true. Councillor Brown?
So I think if we could focus on the questions, because ideally I would like to get these out. So I completely agree with Councillor Bengry. If we could clean up the wording, I think is what you were saying on question number 4. I support that completely. I also I don't think there's anything wrong with adding Councillor Selk's question in regards to economic growth and development. There's nothing wrong with asking. All we're doing is asking questions. So I don't feel like, well, we shouldn't, I don't feel like that's a bad thing. We're asking them if they want a rec center. We're now giving them, these are valid questions. Do you think that there is a need for a general use indoor rec facility in the community? Yes or no? I love the simplicity of them. And I feel like if we could just clean up number 4, add that Councillor Selk's in, then we would have our 4 questions and that we could put this to bed and get it out.
Okay, so can I ask something?
Can I ask?
Please, go ahead.
I've been trying for 5 minutes.
I am
and
so
you-
sorry I missed you. Councillor Barnes, please go ahead.
I just want to say, question 1, I think is irrelevant, because we have them all. And everybody knows that, so I'd throw that one out. And the rest, I agree with what's going on. I think, like Councillor Bengry said, question 4 needs to focus on the rec center and what it will do for us. And I really like the idea of the economic development thing too.
Okay,
I think
all
it's
right.
important.
So,
that's my opinion.
Councillor Bengry?
Just a comment that my concern is we had a letter tonight from the gymnastics club asking us to write off $1,200. Now, in the past year, we've had requests to write off rentals and so forth from the skating club to the hockey to ball diamonds and so forth. Is that going to continue after if we build a recreation center? Are we going to have anybody that's going to be able to afford to use it?
Oh, that's a good question.
I think everything you're referring to is because of COVID, and it's been covered by that COVID costs. This is not a normal year, and I don't think we're going to see that with the rec center, just like we don't see with the other facilities. We haven't had any hockey teams come to us in normal years and want us to write things off, or the swim club or anybody else. It's only because of COVID and they're not getting the numbers they usually have.
Okay, can I ask something regarding question 5? Some of you feel it shouldn't be there, some of you feel it should be there. So I need to have a sense.
I'm not sure anyone said it should be there.
Yeah, I think
Well,
I-
Councillor Barnes say he agrees with
think 5
everything
should be
but
there?
question 1, so I would imagine
I
then
think
question 5.
if it can focus on what those things are going to cost for that rec center, that can be also part of that. I mean, it is an extra cost.
Councillor
Especially
Selk.
when he says they're going to have a retention, it's going to be acting like a retention pond. They're going to have to slow release on, on a heavy rain experience that we might have. We got to protect the hillside. We have to do whatever we can, and so there's an extra cost there to make sure that that's taken care of. We already know we've got some slippage on the hillside this year, and without a center. That was just because we had extra rain and snow. So, anyways.
Councillor Selk.
Question 5 looks like Eeyore the Dark Cloud Donkey wrote it. Because of the rec center, we got to get rid of this, and we're never going to repair a sidewalk again. We're never going to fill a pothole. We're never going to fix a sewer line because of the rec center. The rec center's to blame for everything.
Well,
So I don't agree with that, Councillor Selk. I think what question 1 and 5 are trying to get at, and I'm not married to any of them, by the way. I don't care if they're in. They're trying to get at, you may have residents that prioritize investment in other areas over this.
Exactly.
And that's what it's trying to ask. So the question one is saying, maybe if you had $100, what if 90 of it people say should go to trails? I don't know, I'm just picking one arbitrarily. And $1 to this. It's only attempting to give you some idea of priority in context of other things. But again, I totally understand if you go with those middle three and we had the ECDEV one, that's fine. That's what it was trying to get at, and I can appreciate it for that.
I just want to caution with these questions, I don't want them to be leading questions. Far too many governments have leading surveys, and they get exactly what they want when they have those kind of questions. These questions have to be simplistic enough that people can think about them and think, oh, that makes sense to me, and I have opportunity to share, at question 6. So we have to be careful that these questions aren't leading questions. We just say, this is what we're considering. What do you think about this? Period. So,
Councillor Cole?
and it's hard. It's not easy to make a survey.
Again, number 5 to me is, it's not necessarily redundant, but it's a negative question. And maybe it's not intended to create fear, but like Councillor Selk says, oh, well, if I'm going to have a rec center, I'm not going to have any of this other stuff. Plus, if you're already voting on how much your taxes might go up in number 4, and you do not support an increase in taxes, you're probably not going to support the rec center, because we know it's going to cost a little bit of money. So I find 5 to be a little bit, I don't like 5.
I mean, I could very well be supporting the rec center, but not have money for it. I might still support the idea of it.
I'll support it if we didn't have to put any money into it,
You
but
know?
it's not the case. So.
But it's true. And, I think in the elderly population, you would probably see a lot of people who support that, but would not have the disposable income to be able to enjoy it. And I think that's true also of the younger population. I think many who are raising family don't have tons of disposable income. Would they love to have a rec center? You bet they would. But would they have the disposable income to send all their kids there or to go themselves? Maybe not.
Well, I think question 3 and 4.
Councillor Barnes.
The question is, has any fundraising happened? I haven't heard of any yet. A few months ago, I thought we had kind of said, hey, let's get at this and start raising funds, because my position on this. Fundraising is a very important part of it. And if we don't see the fundraising, we're going to know what the answer is to this whole facility. I'm all in favor as long as the fundraising is in place, and there's going to be a substantial amount of fundraising taken care of. We need to, obviously, with the figures that we've got now, but it's so important.
Okay, so that brings me to another point. Are we in agreement then around this table that we will not have a shovel on the ground until we have all the money up front?
Yep.
I think that's important.
That's kind of
Because unless we have all the money up front, it is not responsible to move forward.
Pretty sure that question was asked about 3 meetings ago, and we all.
You know
nodded our head.
something? It's worth repeating. Because of the timeline that you gave yourselves as a committee of the pickleballer, who would love to start in April the construction. So before that happens, we need to know what the community thinks, and we need to have all the money up front. If the money is not there, and the community is not pulled to give us a sense, if they're okay with it, then why carry on, right? Councillor Brown.
Okay, so it was my understanding that we are to agree on our questions so that we can get them out to the community, so we can then hear back from the community, and then we will take care of the hurdles of the fundraising and everything Everything impinges on if the town of Cardston does not support a rec center, we're not going to build a rec center.
Well, that's what we said
And
6 months
just
ago.
Give me a sec. So that's my understanding, that if in fact the town of Cardston residents do not want this, well then why would we go ahead and knock on your door asking you for money? Hold on. Because it's pointless. So my understanding of the order of events, because I have asked this a billion times, is that we would send out the survey after council approves it-ish, that then it will go out to our taxpayers. We will have an answer. If it is a no, we're done. If it is a yes, then we will go ahead, tell the pickleballers, get on it. This is how much we're finding out this building is costing us. So it's another $1 million we need you to go for. Once they come up with that money, great. Then that money and this money, and by then we have the designs and we have done all of our due diligence, then it shovels in the ground. That was my understanding.
Well, it was not so clear a few months ago. Trust me, it was not around this table.
No, but recently, that was my understanding of the direction this council saw that we were going.
We're starting to move in proper order, and I appreciate that. Thanks.
So, Mayor, would it be reasonable? Do I need a motion in order to approve these questions? Can you tell me how I can do this? Because I don't want to spend 14 hours. I understand what you're saying, Councillor Barnes, in regards to leading questions, which is why I had brought up these, because I felt they were honest. The majority, like they were non-leading, because I do not support that. Which is why I like 2, 3, and 4, and the ECDEV question in there. I felt like those were good, solid questions. So if we can try and focus and get the survey. Go ahead.
Mayor, if I might.
Please,
Let me read
Jeff.
to you the feedback I have to your question, Councillor. I'd say no, not a resolution now.
Okay.
But I'll read you what I took for notes.
Thank you.
And then the next draft might be the
Okay.
one. So I had, we need to add a list of things in the preamble, the potential activities in the preamble.
Thank you.
I had Councillor Court Brown, don't like question 1.5. We need to narrow the description down to the indoor rec facility on Q4. I think it was a good point, Councillor Bengry.
It's
Thank
a
you for
very
that.
good point.
Councillor Selk, a question something along believing if a rec center contributes to the economic development in the community, and so we'll try and word that appropriately. And concerns about the high tax levels on Q4 that it might create cost fears. So we'll look at that. One of the things we'll look at, and that one's a bit of a tricky one because it's your assessment times whatever tax impact it might have. Mm-hmm. So there are a number of homes in that 200-300 range if the increase was, pick a number, right? So if it was 4%, if your house was assessed at $500,000 or more, well, you're at $200 or more. Yep. But that's not a huge category, but it's quite a few, and so on. So we'll look at that. Other than that, that was the feedback I've got to this point. Did I miss something critical? And then we can work all that out?
Yeah.
So you're going to reword these questions?
Yeah, so we'll go back to the drawing table on those. I think it sounds like, unless there's some opposition, we'll take out 1 and 5.
Okay.
And then add an ECDEV.
Yep.
Thank you.
I am just wondering, under Q6, would it be useful for us to get a sense of those who might use the facility, what would they use it for? As would they be interested in volleyball or pickleball or whatever?
We could ask that after like Q3.
Yeah,
And just
question
have a type in one. You don't get as much response when you have to type in a response, but you'll get something.
Yeah.
Yeah, most people will leave those blank, but you'll still get some result there for sure. So we could look at something very simple just to fill in the box after Q3. If you used it, would you pay a facility? What activities would you use in the facility? That kind of idea.
Yeah, because it might be 2 or 3 or 1 or 2 or whatever. It might give us a sense of the usage, right?
Yeah, we can look at that.
Yes.
On question 4, I don't support a 201 to 300 or over 300 tax increase. Those two, I think, are just going to scare people. I would just put the first 4 in there, 3 in there. Up to 50 or 101 to 200. I don't think anybody's going to support the other 2.
No.
So I don't know why we'd even have them in there.
However, it's a reality.
That is a
We're not going
reality.
to build it if it's going to go up that much. If we have to raise taxes that high, we're not going to build the facility.
Yeah.
Yeah, all I would point out is in our what's the word I want here? In our previous budget, that would have been a reality for many properties.
$200,
And they can
yes.
certainly say no to it. In fact, I would anticipate almost everyone
In one of
would.
those property areas, I know what you're saying, but.
But any house at, say, 4.5% that's assessing at 500, 475 to and over is going to be at 200 plus.
Yeah.
And there's quite a few of those. So it's just, obviously, I don't think you'd see overwhelming yeses on that one. I think that stands to reason, Councillor, for sure. But there are some people who realistically fall in that category at a modest tax rate increase. That's the only thing I would say, but we'll do whatever you feel is most appropriate.
Okay, how many of you around the table don't want to see the 200 to 300? Personally, it stays, from what I see around the table.
I have a suggestion. Rather than putting in those numbers, why don't you just put in percentages and let them do their own math?
No. Oh, sorry.
Thank you.
I'm so sorry.
Vetoed you.
Yeah, I didn't know we had vetoes as the mayor.
No, I don't try to veto, but it seems to me, Councillor Selk, to justify what my no means. My no means that people don't do math well. They prefer to see a number. A number speaks to them. A percentage doesn't really speak to them. And so I think it's fair the way it is.
With Councillor Selk's question, could you, behind that $50 annual property tax increase in brackets, put approximately 4%? Or something like that?
But I don't know that number, Councillor.
I know.
That's the only risk.
No,
We don't know that number.
it all depends on your assessment.
Yeah, that.
Councillor Selk,
Yeah.
my apologies.
I guess we don't give people credit for doing math in this town, but that's what I did. I did the math on it. And as Jeff suggested, a 4.5% increase, when I did the math, worked out to $100 and some bucks, which worked out to, since I'm on the tip program, like $12 to $14 a month. So I was pretty comfortable with that.
No, I hear you, Councillor. For some, it will feel comfortable to talk percentage, but I honestly believe that for most, number speaks louder. Councillor Barnes.
If I'm trying to figure out here, is everybody going to understand what a general use indoor recreation facility is including, or do we need to put something in there to say that these are the possible things that we're going to have in here: pickleball, basketball, volleyball, and paint, whatever else. Not paintball.
Councillor Barnes, that is what Councillor Drew was talking about. It will be in the preamble.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's important.
And that Councillor Brown was suggesting that earlier on.
I've
that
had
follows
that
your
question
question.
asked so many times in my office, people coming in, people phoning, what's it going to have in it? So I tell them,
Well,
Right.
that follows your
And they
question
understand.
3.
pardon me?
That follows your question 3. Because if you're going to pay a user fee, is your family going to be involved in pickleball or basketball or whatever?
Okay, so can we go ahead with the suggestion? Okay, thank you.
Just one more question there.
Please go ahead.
Timeline, Jeff.
So we'll bring this back for CCW.
And but then we can't make a motion. Can we just agree on those questions? If we agree on, they can go out that.
Recommendation.
We have to work through, I'll stand up here, I'm not
I don't want this to be like 3 more weeks down the road.
Well, we have to work through the, what's the name? To apply a user code to every property, we've got to work through the company out of Airdrie with that. I'm hoping that's a pretty quick process, but I should be able to tell you that by CCW as well.
Okay.
Yeah, we'll get a good feel for that as well.
So that will be the same company that we used?
We're planning
for
to
the
try and use the one we
census?
did the census with, yeah.
Okay, good.
Yeah, they did pretty good. We kind
They
of
did
dumped
a
all the
fairly
address
good job,
information
yeah.
and they generated that. It worked out not bad.
Okay. Councillor Bengry?
Jeff, not trying to put pressure on the administration staff yourself, but you haven't really finalized your numbers in the actual building of this building.
Nope, they're not asked in the survey.
Okay, but at the same token, when you report the survey and ready to go with the survey, can we as a council have some kind of figures up to speed on that actual building costs?
You have what I have at this point, Councillor.
Yeah.
And so we're just waiting on a couple
Not
lingering
finalized
things to
yet.
come in. So as soon as we have them, you'll know.
Okay.
All right, well,
Hot dog.
we're moving a little bit ahead. So we should go, anything else regarding the rec center that we want to talk about? There was a question earlier on, and I don't know that Councillor Barnes got his answer. He was talking about the fundraising. We didn't really give him a chance. You were talking about fundraising,
Yeah,
and you wanted to know what was happening on that front.
yeah.
And maybe Councillor Selk
The
can
reason I'm
address
asking that
that.
question, because I was approached 3 months ago by Gibb, and he told me that he had a major sponsor that was possibly gonna come up with a couple of $100,000. That's what he told me.
Yeah.
So I'm thinking, okay, great, that's wonderful. I hope that happens.
Okay.
That would go a long way.
Councillor Selk?
It's a catch-22. We're sitting here humming and hawing on whether we're actually gonna commit to this or not. And they're out there trying to raise money, and it's like, so, has the town committed to this? Well, yeah, sort of. So these fundraisers don't wanna go to their major sponsors and say, yeah, the town's sort of in on this, but maybe not. They don't wanna look like idiots. So they're waiting until this is defined, and that's what this survey's all about. We have a final answer, then we can move ahead, and then they can move ahead.
Okay.
The survey says.
Does it answer your question?
I understand that totally. I'm fine with
Thank
that.
you. Any other question we missed? So, do we know any more about the donation from the county? Do we know any more what their position is?
No, I'm not involved with it.
Do we know if they have passed their budget yet?
I know they've done preliminary check, or what's interim, I guess is what the word I was going for.
They have an interim too?
Yeah, I assume so.
Okay. All right, let's go under 8. Committee and other report, the CEO report. Jeff, you've been busy again this past month. Is there anything in particular that you feel we should be a little bit more informed on?
There might have been something, 1 second here. One thing we need to talk about next meeting a little bit is if we're just going to close the rink for the year. The current health orders expire on January 29th, and so I'm curious to see what that looks like. Dr. Hinshaw said today to the CIOs that she's not looking at allowing any kind of those types of things at all in the near future because they're worried about these variants that are now on the scene. And so I think Tim Williams and I were just texting. It looks like minor hockey's going to pick a date early in February where they're just going to be done too. So I may be coming to talk to you at CCW about, we're going to pick a date and we're just going to stop keeping ice cold. So there's a couple of those things on the horizon that are coming up.
Okay,
But other than that, that's about it.
thanks.
That just,
Councillor Bengry?
just a comment, that just blows me away when the National Hockey League is allowed to play games and the little kids can't get out in the ice.
Maddening.
You can keep those kids in a hotel room for their entire year in a bubble, then I guess maybe you could pull it off, but that's not going
Right,
to happen.
it's about it. Okay, any other question there? Development report, you could see that even in a year with COVID, it has not stopped our town having actually a fairly good year in terms of building.
That's right.
So that is a good thing. I'm glad for those who have deep pocket and who is still building big houses. There is a report that is the annual report for the CPO. So you can have a look. I know the pie shape is a little small and it's a little bit difficult to read, but the numbers are before that and on the side in the legend too. Then there is a
I just
certain
wanted to ask
amount.
a question. Just
Please
kind of
go
back-
ahead.
Just to back up about the report where it says there's going to be some retrofitting of the garbage cans. Does that mean that the street people weren't going to be able to
Oh,
get
my
all
CO
the
report,
cans
sorry.
and bottles out of there?
That's the intent, yeah. They get knocked, they get opened and kind of things out, so they're retrofitting to try and get those locked down. They can't be tampered with.
Okay.
So Dylan thinks he has a retrofit for our existing ones that he can make work.
Go ahead.
Before council meeting, there was some discussion with a couple of councillors, and do we need to increase our foot patrols on Main Street? We're getting back into bad habits on Main Street.
We got out of that habit?
We're getting back into real bad habits.
Oh, okay.
Urinating on Main Street in public places and so forth.
COVID's been absolutely disastrous for public washrooms for anyone. It's a terrible problem for anyone, but particularly those who are vulnerable.
Yeah, but the side of a business in plain Main Street
I agree with you. I agree with you.
is not a
It's
public bathroom.
a real problem, for sure.
Yeah.
But we just need to get our citizens reported. I saw that a few months ago. I talked to Sean. Sean had the guy picked up and the RCMP had him taken away that quickly. If we don't report it, then they don't know. So
Yeah.
let them know.
But it's a difficult issue.
It is.
It's a difficult issue because if it goes to court, the first thing they ask is where is your public washroom? And then you have to say we have none. And then they throw it out of court in an instant.
Last week, I come out of my office and right in front of the Cahoon Hotel on this side where they used to have the pawn shop in there, there's a guy sitting there in a nice chair, relaxed, and he's yakking and talking away. And I, what the heck? And so, anyways, I didn't think anything of it. I just thought, oh, he's really brave. At the end of the day, I come out. There's another guy there. They got two chairs. Right? They're just sitting there. So I reported it. And Sean and the RCMP there took them and confiscated their chairs and told them, you've crossed the line. That's loitering. That's not just hanging around, and that's loitering. That's what they were doing. And those chairs were confiscated. And then twice I see a guy, two people passed out in the ATB lobby with the cash machines. And then I called on that, and they took them away. And then a week later, there's a guy in there in his wheelchair, fast asleep, sitting there. And I was wanting to go in there and get some cash, and I wasn't going to go in there with somebody in there like that. So I called, and they hauled him away. And then he called me back, the RCMP, and explained to me. He says, these guys are in there every day. We deal with it every day. Every night they're going there and taking them out.
It's
And I
not
said,
an
well,
easy
take
time.
their bank card away from them.
It's not an easy time,
It's
Councillor.
really not. It's hard.
It's not an easy time for that population. Honestly,
Yeah.
it's not.
If I
Anyway.
may add just on, usually when they're urinating in public, they're intoxicated. That's
Yeah.
why we need to report them.
Yeah.
When we'll stay, if they're sober, they're not going to be out in front doing that, I don't think.
Yeah, these guys weren't sober. That's
Okay. Let's go to 8D. There are some committee reports. Thank you for those who filed them. There is quite a few from EMS. Councillor Selk, can you just help me understand just something that I read, and I might not have read it right. There was obviously an evaluation done of your chief, Danny Melvin, I would imagine, and you must have discussed then his salary increase. That's what happened? I'm not sure.
There was a closed session and we discussed
Okay.
salary.
So I was trying to understand, because then I read the library, and the library decided to freeze their salary for 2 years. And so I was wondering, help me understand a little bit how that discussion went about, if you can reveal a little bit.
Sure. When the library makes money, they can get a raise. But Danny makes money for emergency services and has for the last number of years, so he gets a raise. Does that make sense?
No, it's not what I'm trying to say is how did you come with, no, I have no problem with increases, okay, it's not where the problem is. I was just wondering, did you do a comparative with chiefs around the area? Is that the way it happened? I'm just trying to understand the methodology.
Yeah, he's quite underpaid compared to most chiefs around here.
Okay, so that's what I was wondering.
What he actually does, he's quite underpaid.
Yeah, so I was wondering if you were trying to bring him
Point of order,
up to par.
is this a closed session discussion?
No,
That
no.
should not be taken in the general,
You're getting close to the.
Okay, all right, so we leave it alone.
yes.
Just in
Thank you.
actual time.
No, it's just to understand how it came to be, because it's public, obviously. If it was not, wouldn't be in that report. Anything else that you want to talk about? Correspondence? Ms. Tanya Thorne? Councillor Selk, is there anything you want to talk about there? No, nothing, eh? Okay, and then there is Barry Moshida. If you could see, there are sessions coming in February. 2 sessions regarding policing. I would suggest that if you are interested in joining in, that you ask the town to register you. And I will. So, Councillor Selk, do you want to be part of that?
I'd like to be involved in the discussions on policing.
Okay,
Both sessions, Councillor?
Please.
okay. And I will do 2.
I'll do too.
Councillor Bengry will do 2. Who else is interested? Okay, so the 3 of us will be part of that.
Yep, sounds good.
Thank you. And the other one, Partners for the Saskatchewan River Basin. Well, I would imagine I might do further studies somehow.
It's back to Police Act review just for a quick second here. Where are you going to hold that at?
It's a Zoom.
Well, this is from your home.
Okay,
Yeah.
so it won't be anything here, because we'll
No.
have probably a meeting here with the MPC, so,
Yeah, just from home.
okay, thank you.
Yeah. Okay, thank you very much. So I think that is the end of the public portion of that meeting. Councillor Bengry?
Motion to go closed session.
Thank you. All in favor? Thank you very much.
Oh, you know what? Did we talk about the tax thing?